Actually, we have the delegation for three of them, and this.
Hello. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is time to start the ACECC Strategic Planning Goals Seminar. Please return back to the seat. I hope the participants from internet web link, they can listen to my talk. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Loud and clear.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, then it's time to start. This is my great pleasure to start this ACECC Strategic Planning Goal Seminars. I'm Hironori Kato at the University of Tokyo, JSCE, Japan. I'd like to introduce quickly about the background and goal of this seminar. This strategic planning goal is one of the 6 goals established by ACECC, and its mission is ACECC will develop initiatives and acquire civil engineering technologies to address changes facing Asia. And we have launched a task force group to review the past activities of ACECC and also discuss about the challenges for the futures with several members, including the Future Leader Forum. And yes, this seminar is a kind of a progress report regarding the extensive review of ACECC activities and to discuss the challenges for future civil engineering in ACECC. Time is very limited, so I'd like to quickly proceed our program. But the agenda is first, I will invite Dr. Izawa to make a progress report regarding the review on ACECC activities. And the second part is the presentations from the invited speakers. Professor Ueda, the president of JSCE, and Professor Ho, president of KSCE, and Miss April Lander from ASCE to talk about the case reports on the future perspective in civil engineering from 3 societies. And finally, we will have very short panel discussions amongst participants. Okay, then let us start with the introductory part. I'd like to invite Dr. Jun Izawa to make a report about the reviews of ACECC activities.
Thank you, Professor. My name is Jun Izawa. I'm in charge of Secretary of Strategic Planning Goal2, SPG2, and Vice Chair of JSCE Committee on ACECC. Today, I'd like to make a brief introduction of this session and progress report of SPG2. Here we can see the SPG2 and the contents of this session. I will skip this page as Professor Kato explained the details of this session. At first, I'd like to make a progress report of the SPG2, starting from the brief introduction of strategic planning goals. And secondly, I will make a report on the review results of the past ACECC activities divided into 3 phases. At first, review of the past declarations, and secondly, checking the relationship between Tokyo Declaration and SDGs, and finally also the TC activities. And finally, I will briefly conclude my presentation. Here we can see the time history of strategic planning meeting suggested by Dr. Ueda for making a 5-year plan following the Tokyo Declaration at the 38th ECM at Karachi. As you know, the COVID-19 pandemic has just started immediately before this ECM, but fortunately, we could have a lot of online meetings to set the 6 strategic planning goals. And each team was also set up for each goals. And each team set their own strategies, measures of success, and tactical actions. we can see the 6 goals set up in the strategic planning meeting. Our goal 2 is the ACECC will develop initiative and acquire civil engineering technologies to address challenges facing Asia. The team leader of the SPG2, Professor Kato, set the strategies and measure of success and tactical actions for goal 2. And we will focusing on the tactical action 2.1.1 in this session. Technical action 2.1.1 is a new task force meeting is set up and held for identify the challenges and defining the critical issues. Then Professor Kato formed the task force inviting the Dr. Suraj Gautam and the Dr. ASCE from the Future Leader Committee as a member of the task force team, and invited Dr. Mr. Inoue and me as the Secretary General. And we discussed how to identify the challenges and define the critical issues for the ACECC. Then we decided to clarify the missing items in the past declarations and the TC activities, and also necessary items in the future on those. And to review the past ACECC activities, we conducted 3 phases review. The first one is to review the past declarations, and the second one is to check the relationship between Tokyo Declaration and the strategic plan, SDGs by United Nations. And finally, we check also the relationship between Tokyo Declaration and the TC activities. Okay, let me start the review of the past declarations. The ACECC has released 3 declarations ever at Tokyo Taipei Declaration at the SICA 4, Jakarta Protocol at the SICA 6, and the Tokyo Declaration at the SICA 8. We reviewed these declarations, including the minutes of presidential meetings held at SICA 2 and the SICA 5. Here we can see the items of Tokyo Declaration 2019. These are the Tokyo Declaration is composed of 16 items divided by 5 categories. And also the other items in the other declarations are listed here with the items of Tokyo Declaration. We can find that some items has been repeatedly addressed in the some declarations, such as disaster prevention and the environmental problem, climate change issue, water problem, sustainable development, and education, and so on. On the other hand, the preservation on cultural values and heritage has been addressed in only one declaration, in Taipei Declaration. As summarized here, we found that although the issues on cultural heritage listed in Taipei Declaration is missing in the other declarations, the Tokyo Declaration encompasses almost the items of the previous declarations. Then we were referring to the Tokyo Declaration hereafter. Now let me move on to the second review, checking relationship between Tokyo Declaration and the SDGs. As you know, the United Nations set the Sustainable Development Goals, 17 goals as shown here. And we applied items of Tokyo Declaration to the SDGs shown here. And we can clearly understand most of the SDGs are covered by the items of Tokyo Declaration, except for some goals such as the goal 1, 2, 8, 12, and 17. As summarized here, the missing items are relating to the poverty problem, food security, agriculture, economic growth, employment, decent work, and consumption, production, and global partnership, finance problems. Probably we have to concern these items in the future declarations or ACECC activities. And finally, we checked the relationship between the Tokyo Declaration and the TC activities. We would like to start the review from the checking the objectives of TC, ACECC TC activities. Here we can see the objectives described in the guideline for TC activities. The TC activity is very unique and very important activities for in ACECC. Then it shall be multidisciplinary and multi-sectional, and it's ASEAN related. It should be ASEAN related, and the technological transfer or implementation of existing technology could be also the matter of discussion. I believe these objectives are covered by Tokyo Declaration. Then we checked the relationship between the Tokyo Declaration and the TC activities. To clarify the relation, that we made a historical bar chart as shown here. And here, we can see that some items of Tokyo Declarations have been repeatedly dealt with in many TC activities, such as items 1, 3, 6, 7, and 10, and 12. And on the other hand, items 2, 5, 8, and 9 has not been sufficiently dealt with in the past ACECC activities. Only one TC dealt with these issues. Moreover, no TC has not been set up for human health or items 13 and cultural values and heritage. So we have to review the past ACECC activities to set up the new TCs. As summarized here, from the review of the past ACECC, past TC activities, we can clarify the missing items and the insufficient items in the past TC activities. Okay, let me summarize my presentation briefly. We task force team reviews the past declaration and clarify the Tokyo Declaration encompass almost the contents of the previous declarations. And from the checking the relationship between Tokyo Declarations and the SDGs, most of the SDGs are covered by the past ACECC declaration, except for goal 1, 2, 8, 12, 17, which are relating to poverty and economic issues. And finally, we checked the TC activities, and we clarified the missing items and insufficient items in the past TC activities. We task force team reviewed, made these reviews through the some discussion meeting, and I made a short progress report in this session. Hereafter, we would like to have a discussion on the future perspective in civil engineering with distinguished panelists. And we task force team will make a report on ACEC's challenge and visions in civil engineering, and will submit the report to 45th ECM at Taipei. That's all my report. Thank you very much.
Dr. Izawa, thank you very much for very valuable reports about the reviewing results of our activities. And unfortunately, fortunately, we found some biases in our activities compared with, for example, SDGs, and even the TISH activities could have a little bit limited scope. Okay, based on these findings, let us discuss later on about what kind of, critical issues we should challenge. But before that, for the futures, what kind of actions are considered in different societies of ACEC members? So we'd like to invite 3 member societies to explain and show us their ideas about future directions. Well, first of all, I'd like to invite Professor Tamon Ueda from JSCE about the role of civil engineering for SDGs. Are you ready for presentation? Oh yeah, just push, yes, please. Oh yes, please.
Thank you, kind introduction. Yes, I'm very happy to be here to talk about something like our responsibility to the, civil engineering responsibility to SDGs. What I heard from the Dr. Izawa's report is very much similar to what I wanted to say. Let me talk about sustainability and especially carbon neutrality. Yes, in fact, probably what we are discussing is a rather positive effect, what we can do as a civil engineering, but at the same time, we should not forget we have negative effects, like construction industry. Probably we are responsible about 1/3 of CO2 emission. So this is what we are really doing. And then I don't have to go through this slide. Then what I wanted to say is, yes, of course, this is our civil engineering or civil engineers community, but we could see some documents authored by the non-civil engineers. Like this is one of the documents, the critical role of infrastructure for the sustainable development goals. And this document clearly said our big responsibility for the sustainable development goals. And also, this is another document. This is infrastructure for sustainable development in nature sustainability 4 years ago. Yes, this document tried to see what is the infrastructure's effect to achieve SDGs. Then, in fact, we have 169 targets under 17 goals. 72% of the targets directly or indirectly affected by the infrastructures. Then, according to this document, every 17 SDG is somehow affected by infrastructure. This document is rather slightly narrowed down since my background is concrete. This paper is say what concrete or concrete structure can contribute to the SDGs. And this document say 48% of the 169 targets is somehow contributed by concrete or concrete structures. Maybe because of limited time, I may skip those things. Yes, maybe I better talk about what the negative aspect of the construction. Then one of the things is concrete. Yeah, I'm in the, as I said, concrete background. Annual production concrete is nearly 30 billion tons. Then, of course, still many countries are developing countries, so the concrete production is increasing, but about 7 or 8 years ago, it stopped increasing because China stopped increasing. Then, because of through the this concrete production or any construction activities, through cement production, 3 billion tons of CO2 emission, through concrete construction itself, 7 billion tons. So in total, about 10 billion tons CO2 emission. Yeah, of course, different people say that different figures, but somehow approximately 1/3 of total CO2 emission coming from the construction industry. This is somehow the country basis CO2 emission. As you know, China and the US is very big emitted country. Then also the carbon neutrality, the project size, construction project size. If bigger construction project, CO2 emission also become bigger. So this is somehow those statistical data indicate. Then this is another document issued by the World Economic Forum. This is saying how industry achieve carbon neutrality by 2050. Then this report looking at about half dozen of the industry, including concrete and steel and some others. Then it indicates there are 5 important factors. Then one of them, infrastructure. So each 6 industry to achieve carbon neutrality, infrastructure is one of the key role. I may skip those. Then as a summary, what is the contribution of infrastructure? One thing is the life cycle of structures. If we extend life cycle, and if we try to promote recycle, reuse, then somehow we can reduce CO2 emission. Then infrastructure necessary for carbon neutrality, meaning infrastructure or new renewable energy power plant, or some new facility for CO2 storage, or so on. And also we are responsible to prepare or even to show the society what is the appropriate transportation system, which is suitable for carbon neutrality. And the last one is most complicated issues. What is the national land planning for carbon neutrality? For example, centralization or decentralization? Which way is better for carbon neutrality? But at the same time, we have to think about well-being of human beings. Yes, since I had a concrete background, I a little bit talk about what we can do, the concrete. Yeah, Professor Noguchi of University of Tokyo, he's expert in the concrete. He said white carbon. In fact, concrete itself is a great source of the CO2 emission, but at the same time, CO2 capturing can be done by concrete as well in many things. In fact, we have the concrete, naturally we call it the concrete carbonation. This is kind of the deterioration phenomena for concrete, but it absorbs, concrete itself naturally absorbs the CO2. So it's a rough calculation, but 1 billion tons of CO2 can be absorbed in concrete. through the many concrete structures. And also we can have some new technology, concrete hardening by CO2, producing aggregate by using CO2, or production of the CaCO2 by using CO2, or so on. There are some newly emerged technology to capture CO2 through producing concrete-related material. But at the same time, we have to pay to achieve carbon neutrality, and the different people say slightly different, but roughly about 4 to 5% of the total GDP should be paid more to achieve carbon neutrality. Then this is probably today's my main point. Yeah, one of the JSCE action, big picture of civil engineering after Corona pandemic. Yeah, in fact, this action, it's not clearly indicating the SDGs related activities, but in fact, this is very good to achieve SDGs, to show what civil engineers can do to show what is the society to be, which is suitable for SDGs. This is initiated by JSCE President Taniguchi in 2021. Yeah, big picture doesn't mean that a big project. Instead, holistic scope. So we are looking at many aspects at the same time. And that this is not a forecasting. What is our future? Forecasted for future. Instead, we show what is the future to be, or society to be. So once we identify those future, then now what we need to do as a civil engineer or civil engineers. So society be in future, civil engineers provide foundation for achieving sustainable society, bringing well-being and symbiosis as well as carbon neutrality. Yeah, well-being and symbiosis is kind of the make our life happier. But somehow carbon neutrality has something contradicting direction, but we have to accommodate both aspects. Then just recently, the JSCE published a book to show what is the big picture. Then this is just pick up from the book, what we can do. One thing is probably decentralized society or symbiosis with the nature. Yeah, this illustration show what we are thinking. Instead of people living in big city like Tokyo or Osaka, we may have kind of the decentralization. We can have rather uniformly distributed population so that we can have happier life, especially with the nature. For this purpose, we need several things. Yeah, some issues are specifically true for the Japan, where we have many natural disasters. But similar to other countries, infrastructure maintenance is important, economic security, regional development, decarbonation, response to a DX society, green infrastructure, biodiversity. So as a whole, we somehow are aiming at this centralized society and happy living with surrounding nature and different people as well. And this is so steps to achieve. First of all, the big picture in civil engineering, what we need to, we have to aim at the public participation in prolonged symbiosis with nature, systematization of public expenditure, I mean tax systematization of long-term planning, review business decision-making process. And this book shows some example which illustrate what we are aiming at. Then keyword is for society to be is decentralization and symbiosis. This middle picture is for example for smaller village. It shows this is small village in the Tohoku area. This newly built facility is integrated facility for community, tourism, and the shelter against natural disaster. And right-hand side, this is for mid-sized city case, railway connecting with small villages to the mid-sized city, and large-sized city like this. Yeah, we try to reforming main street, which is meant only for car, to make people walkway. This is some example. We also look at some good example in the foreign countries. Then we found that a good example in Norway. In Norway, they have a historical practice. They try to get people consent to governmental plan, including budget. They have a good system to do so. Then latest one is National Transport Plan for the 2022-2033. But Norway, their main concept is decentralization. Yeah, their population is as small as only Hokkaido, but area-wise as big as Japan. Then, because of time limit, I go to the end. So civil engineering has a great role of the infrastructure, especially concrete structure and other structure, contribute positively to and reduce negative impacts to sustainability, including carbon neutrality. Yeah, I happen to be concrete background, but concrete has a great impact in both ways. And the civil engineers has a role to show the society to be in future to achieve SDGs and carbon neutrality by bringing well-being and the symbiosis society. And extension life cycle of the infrastructure is also another key issue. This is somehow related to my research field. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Professor Ueda, thank you very much for informative presentations, particularly from concrete engineers. Okay, we enjoyed very much. Okay, next, I'd like to invite Professor Jun.
Can I make a comment?
Oh, yeah. Any comments? Yes, very quickly, please.
I really appreciate Professor Ueda, bring us to the future. That's all our concern. For sure, your study on concrete, that's definitely we need to fix that. But don't forget, still, it's our infrastructure too, right? And also the payment, asphalt payment, the transportation system, right? So, but I think I really admire your college. This is not very easy task to do it, but we have to do that right now. If not, we don't do it, we'll regret someday. I think in our 20 years anniversary, that handbook, a particular point out that don't forget, we need to use a civilized method to curb the exponent growth of the human population. That's come from really, if we continue expand that, we'll no matter what you say, it's hard to be followed, hard to be executed, because at that point, human being will try to grab that limited resource, right? We will fight to each other. We will fight to each other, even kill each other. Yeah, that's I can see that. Yeah, and other things I can see that not only that the pavement, right? That's infrastructure, right? And also, don't forget that the lots of semiconductor product is made by chemical, right? And made heavily use the human resource, water, and also the power, electricity. So that's everywhere right now. Yeah, it's a cost. We need to find out something to make that so-called circular economy, right? That's part of circular economy.
Professor Chan?
Reuse, recycle, regenerate. Start from planning. Start from. Thank you.
Okay.
I finished that.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I didn't forget steel and also payment. Yeah, they're also very important. And you also touch most difficult issue, population. Population is very complicated issue.
Thank you. The time is also scarce, so let us go to the next presentation. Thank you very much for your understanding. Of course, we can discuss furthermore very exciting issues, right? Okay, thank you very much, Professor Ueda. Then let us move to the next presentations. Professor Ho, the president of KSCE. The title is Civil Engineers Enabling Sustainable Flows. Tomorrow. Sorry, tomorrow. Okay. I found it. If you're ready, please start your presentation. Thank you.
Oops. Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jun-Haeng. It's very difficult to pronounce. I'm a president of KSCE. Okay. So today I'm going to present the KSCE perspective on the future of civil engineering and civil engineers, especially for the educating young generation and fostering international collaboration. Okay. So let me introduce KSCE with numbers very shortly. So KSCE was founded in 1951 during the Korean War. We have more than 29,000 members. So our KSCE is the largest society in Korea. And we have 11 regional sections, 75 committees, 80 domestic MOU organizations, and 28 international AOC societies and institutions. Also, we publish the International KSCE Journal, and every year we celebrate March 30th as a Civil Engineers Day since 1998. Because the castle of Hanyang is the old name of Seoul, was constructed on March 3rd in 1398. So every year we celebrate Civil Engineers Day. Okay? And then every October we have an annual convention, and then we plan to hold the KSCE convention jointly with the ACECC 10 in 2025 on October here in Jeju, Island. So there is a KSCE Vision 2050 Center in KSCE. So President-elect is an ex officio chair. I served as a chair last year. And there is our mission, our vision. The letter is too small, so let me read this. To share sustainable development and the improvement of quality of life with the public based on the knowledge, experience, and the competence of civil engineers. So we have two missions. To accomplish these missions, we set up the 3-hour goals. And then let me think about the theme of ACECC 10, which is a smart in civil engineering. The SMART stands for sustainable management and resilient technology in civil engineering. So nowadays, smart technology is a core element to achieve our vision. So I think that educating this technology to next generation is very, very imperative. So I think this theme is very good. And then we also face the global challenges. The one example is rapid urbanization and the aging of civil infrastructures. I think many cities in the world are rapidly expanding with fast-growing economy, but without a careful plan, the safety can be degraded rapidly as well. So there is some kind of the accident in my country. About 3 weeks ago, the sidewalk of Jeongja Bridge in Bundang New Town collapsed. So it caused 2 casualties. This bridge was opened in 1993, and 164 bridges in the first generation New Town project were built in a similar period from 1989 to 1996. So now the public and government, they concern about the safety and the aging of civil infrastructures. It's good to us. And then many cities in the world are facing or will face similar problems. So we have to utilize the IoT, AI, big data, and other advanced technologies for the safer and more resilient infrastructure construction. And another example will be a global climate crisis and more extreme event. Most of part of the world will definitely be affected by the global climate change. There was a heavy flooding in the middle of Seoul, so-called Gangnam area, not the Gangnam style. So in last summer, the record high rainfall caused serious urban flooding in this area. It resulted in 8 casualties. According to the record, hourly peak rainfall intensity was 141.5 millimeters per hour, which was much greater than the design drainage capacity of 95 millimeters per hour, which is equivalent to the 30 years return period. So we have to upgrade all the infrastructures and build more resilient infrastructures to withstand the impacts of climate change. And then another one is how to cope with the 17 SDGs. So for example, target 9.4 is upgrade all industry and infrastructures for sustainability. I think that this is a quite significant challenge to us. So we need to actually to accomplish this target. So we need to innovation and technological advancement, such as the green technologies, a smart infrastructure, and the sustainable materials. And I think the collaboration of the ACECC members and the interdisciplinary approaches are required to overcome such a problem. And then there is another one, is this one. The smart technologies will be core player in civil engineering to solve such global challenges. One example is a smart city. So Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, and Transport designated Busan and Sejong cities as national smart city pilot zones in 2021. And then there is a reason why the government selected Busan as a pilot city, because there is some kind of problem in the Busan. For example, the rapid population decrease and aging. So you cannot see it. This is too small. So in this left-hand side figure, this is the percentage of population aged over 65. In Busan was 7% in 2002. 20 years later, it becomes 20% in 2022. So now Busan is a super aging city. So the aging speed of Busan is 6 years faster than Korean average. So Korea is 20, in this figure is Germany is 154 years. and Japan 35 years, and Korea is 26 years, but the Busan is only, it takes about just 20 years. So I think that Korea has the shortest record in the world to be super aging country, but Busan is better than the Korean average. That's a problem. And then another example is a digital twin. Okay, it's a smart technology for the sustainability. This example shows the road construction. So using the virtual construction, then you can improve the design, construction, and maintenance. So now this digital twin is quite popular. Okay, and another example is river basin management. So in 2020 summer, the downstream of Seomjin River basin was heavily flooded and damaged due to the failure of a proper flood control. And then the K-Water constructed a digital twin of Seomjin River basin. So now the real-time monitoring and simulation are possible. And also the K-Water can operate dam effectively to climate change, mitigate risks, enhance the resilience and the sustainability of river basin. This is some kind of example. So I explained some kind of a smart technology and our challenges, something like that. So, and then we need to educate next generation to utilize such a smart technologies. So there is an engineering education reform committee in KSCE. They prepare a new curriculum for future civil engineers. And then this committee asks civil engineers, what should the KSCE do first to reform engineering education? Based on over 1,000 responses, the first priority was providing civil engineering materials related to the fourth industrial revolution. We also surveyed the student. It's almost same response. Okay, we have the same response. And this committee, Engineering Education Reform Committee, also suggests the direction for the restructuring future civil engineering curriculum. The first one is a curriculum reorganization, which is the establishment of civil engineering education system with digital literacy, such as big data and computer programming, AI and BIM. And the second one is reorganization of detailed curriculum. So they suppose some kind of the plans depending on the level of students. In addition to the education, I think international collaboration is the most effective way to find a solution for global issues. For example, carbon neutral, as President Ueda said. So this year, the KSCE now initiated the Carbon Neutral Research Committee. So I think it's a little bit late, but this year we're going to start. We're going to activate this committee. And I believe the faith and the respect among countries are essential in the actual collaboration. And I also think that ACECC is the perfect platform for foundation and the promotion of collaboration. So by invigorating the TC activities, we can increase the chance of actual collaborations. So this is the last slide. So there is a CELEN in KSCE. CELEN stands for Civil Engineering Leaders Network. This is a community of international civil engineering students and professionals. It was established by KSCE 10 years ago. This network consists of international civil engineering students and engineers having close ties with Korea, as well as Korean engineers working at home and abroad. I think that the CELEN is a good example of combining education and international collaboration. So this is the last one. So I briefly and fastly present why we have to educate the young generation with smart technology and why we need international collaboration among ACECC members. Thank you for your attention. 감사합니다.
Thank you very much, Professor Ho. I'm very impressed with highlighting educations for the future civil engineering, and you highlighted ASIC's functions very much as well, using the keyword of faith and respect. I agree completely. Thank you very much. Then let us move to next presenters. Ms. April Lander from ACECC. She's explaining about the Future World Vision Megacity 2070. In the last ECM, we listened to the part of that presentation by ACECC President, but we are looking forward to your explanations, maybe in a different way. Some technical trouble? Oh, okay. Yeah, any questions to the presentation of Professor Ho? Yeah, if no, I have one very quick question. So what is the relationship between the university education and the KSCE? KSCE, how do you contribute to the university's education? Oh, maybe you better use the microphone.
So I think we need very smart technology, right? So we have to educate the student. But in my country, the professors, they do not want change with the time. So best way is just hire new young professor with smarter technology, right? So I'm going to retire this August. So I think I try, but I don't have a time to your professor. So this committee, they prepare several coursework, curriculum, including the AI and the BIM and some kind of computer-based classes, something like that. So we prepared this one several years. So I think this year we, upload this curriculum on the KSCE platform. Then everybody can download this curriculum. So we try. So maybe this year, maybe three classes. Maybe next year, maybe 4 and 5, 10, 100, maybe something like that. So we would like to increase the new curriculum, from the KSCE.
Thank you very much. Very
Okay,
excellent.
thank you.
Yes. Oh, it's
okay.
good timing. Then start. Are you ready, April? Yes. If you're ready, please start. Then your presentation.
I will
Thank
try
you.
to be close to the microphone. I think I was the one who wasn't close enough this morning, so sorry about that. So yes, I'm April Lander. So you mostly know me as my role as the ASCE representative to ACECC, but I'm also the ASCE director for what we call Region 10, which is all countries outside the United States, Canada, and Mexico. So we have 150,000 members at ASCE, and we have members in 177 countries, and we have 30 international sections. So similar to what KSCE has. So yeah. So it's a pleasure to be here today and to be part of this distinguished panel. And thank you very much to KSCE for hosting us today. So I'm going to talk about, stop it. Yeah, I don't want to start it just yet. And yeah, we'll need sound when it starts. But I'll introduce it just quickly and then we'll do it. So I'm going to introduce what is called Future World Vision. And it's something that we can use that engineers can use as an interactive tool. It's been developed by ASCE and its partners. And it can be used to collaborate with others. And it's used to reimagine the world and shape the future. So it's something that I thought would be a good way to talk about our challenges that are facing Asia, which we'll see in the video I'll show, and some of the engineering technologies to address those challenges. So it's a very, very interesting tool, and it's free. It's available on the ASCE website at futureworldvision.org. And there's one component of it that I thought was particularly of interest, and that's called Megacity 27. So as you know, you're aware that projections are showing about 85% of people will be living in an urban environment by the end of 2050 or 2060. And of course, that's going to lead to many megacities. So that's why I thought this would be of interest. So I'm going to show just a short video to start with that talks about the challenges our world faces. And it's also meant to inspire people to use Future World Vision to develop your own personal dream for the future. And then I'll show another video again, and it's going to explain a little bit more about Future World Vision and how the app can be used to step into virtual future cities. And that's the beauty of it. You can actually go into future cities, and it's quite an interesting process. And there's all sorts of libraries that are available. You can create your own tour and take people on this tour with you. So it's a very interesting interactive tool. There's all sorts of topic areas. In fact, I'd really love to play more of the videos for you. There's one on resiliency and sustainable infrastructure, for example. There's another on alternative energy. There's one on water. There's just so much available within it, but I thought I really just only have time to kind of introduce it to you today. And then tomorrow you can come back to the TC27 session, and I'll maybe show you a little more detail about how it can be used.
Oh yeah, I need to talk something. Singing? No. Yeah, actually, she's making the quite similar presentation in the next, tomorrow's TC's activities, the seminars.
Glaciers are losing mass at an alarming pace.
Intensify significantly, as you can
The
see
wildfire
behind
is
me.
now the second largest in state history.
So I'm going to show another video as well, but before I do that, I just wanted to just talk about how this morning I mentioned to you that Bill Kelly was looking for some sustainable infrastructure projects and case studies to be updated for the UN event that's coming up on May 3rd. So, again, he was looking, the intent is to demonstrate how engineering underpins achievement of the UN SDGs 6, 7, 9, and 11. And he would like projects that exemplify doing the right project, which is Roadmap Pillar 1, if you might remember, and doing the project right, which is Roadmap Pillar 2, and best support achievement of the SDGs. So I'll just remind you, if anybody's got any ideas, that they can be sent to ACECC-TC14@googlegroups.com, or you can send them to Bill Kelly directly, or you can send them to me or Ueda, and we'll get those to him. But these are the sorts of projects that are the types that we should be getting into this platform called Future World Vision. And like I said, it's free for anyone to use. You might have students that would be interested in trying this. You might be interested yourself. So there's a way that we can take the information, the knowledge that's being created here through ACECC technical committees and putting it into a platform that can be used by others and to collaborate on certain topics. You can actually put information, type ideas into some almost like chat boxes and work with your colleagues on different ideas. So it's quite a powerful tool, and you kind of are challenging others to do better and better and be more efficient with your infrastructure and be more sustainable over time. So I'll just leave that with you to think about as you're watching it. And yeah, we'll go ahead into the other video, which is about 6 minutes.
If you don't make a plan or make a goal and have a vision, then you just react your way into the future. And that's not what we want to do as civil engineers. We want to lead into the future.
How we do our jobs as civil engineers, maybe as systems engineers, will be different in the future.
What are the different cities we see evolving, and how can we really get an understanding of those cities? How can we immerse ourselves in those cities today?
What are the different social infrastructures, physical infrastructures that can be created in which we can all come together and thrive?
What's really important about looking at this through a world-building lens is that it is designed to look forward and then thread back into the present. The further out you look, the more it changes our view of the present.
We're literally forced to not only reimagine our communities, but to rediscover our neighbors, to rediscover many of the things that are right in front of us.
We're spatializing narrative and allowing the user to tell their own story as they navigate the experience of this virtual cityscape.
What can a megacity grow toward so that it's serving a better purpose? You start looking at individual buildings then, because you can typically shape a building. And can you connect several buildings together?
The buildings might form coalitions and interact with the utility, and the utility will interact with the providers of energy all around. That becomes a transactive energy system, and the buildings can play an active role.
I can design a microgrid that serves that district. Or if we need the microgrid to serve an adjacent district, we layer those together.
We need a water supply system that can meet 15 million people's needs.
Every building in the future should be capturing sunlight and rainwater, and every building should be recycling its own waste.
Ideally, the life cycle of infrastructure is one that is continuous, or perhaps reused in the future without going back and re-emitting all that carbon to do the same thing over again. That's the way we've built over the last century, and we simply cannot do it anymore.
Buildings are not unlike a human body. They have bones and skin. They consume energy and regulate temperature and generate waste. What if architects use genetic tools from synthetic biology to encode the architecture of buildings right into the DNA of organisms?
The facades now become active components. And one active thing that facades can do, they can breathe or they can sweat.
You can infuse biological functionalities into structural building materials.
Almost 100% of all the controls in buildings are going to have some element of AI in them and machine learning. As you walk into the building in the morning, the building will recognize you by your electronic signature. You would have created a profile about your temperature, your ventilation preference, and then some of this microenvironment might follow you.
What would social cohesion look like in the city of 2070? It's reasonable to expect that it would actually be vertical.
So, going vertically also brings its own challenges in terms of safety and security.
You might have 175 drones coming in at 11:45 a.m. delivering lunch. Where do they land? How much space are between them? What are the specifications?
It just has to be designed in a way that people can interact, and making sure that you're encouraging paths of travel that are spontaneous.
We're at just the right point in time to get together and build basically the aerial equivalent of what we did in this country with the national interstate highway system, and no longer be restricted to 2 dimensions.
So how do you get the public involved in civil engineering, in the process of civil engineering?
One of the best ways that we can make sure that all voices are heard and included is to start with the people who are doing the planning and developing and see what their teams look like.
How can you ensure social equity and social justice and get input from the community for the projects that we're working on?
We are very conscious about the demographic, the diversity of the community and the society, and make sure that we don't leave anybody behind.
Creating these multi-use spaces is one way of doing that, of bringing people together. And once they're in the same shared space, there is more opportunity for connection, there's more opportunity for shared experience, there's more opportunity for civil dialogue.
The best solutions on Earth, they come with diversity of thought. What I love most about the Future World Vision Project is that we can think about it together. We can have this dialogue.
Users will encounter one another and have conversations across disciplines that will begin to feed back and bring new information into the system.
We're trying to build a world and trying to build a machine that is creating absolute engagement of the user and of the engineer in their own future.
The Future World Vision is really at the core of what we're trying to do at ASCE in transforming the idea of what a civil engineer can be. And that's how we think that we can advance the profession of civil engineering and attract the best and brightest.
Oh my goodness, this 4th industrial revolution, married to the fundamentals of concrete, glass, and steel, is this incredible toolbox for society. It's really on us as civil engineers to pull that all together.
So hopefully that gives you a better idea of what Future World Vision is all about, and it is at futureworldvision.org. And you might have noticed Chris Lieben in that video. He's the new TC31 chair, so be a little introduction to him. And again, the reason I thought this was quite a good topic was megacities and looking at infrastructure and how we can build it better for sustaining these megacities, in which case AAC is thinking 50 million people in those megacities, so pretty major.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we enjoyed a lot about the presentations from the 3 invited presenters. Unfortunately, time is quite limited, so probably we cannot do the traditional panel discussions maybe. So we may ask I may ask some questions to the presenters, so I would like you to answer my questions. And actually, it's probably the audience is enjoyed very much, but particularly the audience from the Future Leader Forum may have some probably impressions to listen to your presentations. The reason why I think so is although Dr. Izawa at the presentations, he told that some of the missing topics compared with SDGs, for example. And one of them is, for example, poverty. No keyword poverty is given from 3 presentations, as far as I understand. And there are many emerging countries members, yes, in ACECC. So, and particularly Suraji-san, he comes from Nepal. So I'd like to listen to his opinions for their presentations. Suraji-san, are you ready to talk about your comments?
Yes, thank you, Kato. Am I audible?
Oh, yes, we can hear you well.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, it's been a very enlightening session. I thoroughly enjoyed the issues and challenges were extracted in the beginning, and then it was followed by some of the innovations that are bound to happen, and we need to get, as a civil engineer, we need to get ready for all those kind of innovations and so on. So I think for all of those things, what we need is a very strong foundation, and being a civil engineer, and especially belonging from a future leader, I think this was a very good, it was eye-awakening session. And most of all, the goal 2 is like developing initiatives and acquiring civil engineering technologies to address the challenges facing in Asia. So regarding this, as duly mentioned, I would also like to provide some insights that we faced as a, staying in Nepal, having gone through different types of natural hazards and disasters. So talking about the first point regarding the sustainability of different types of civil engineering materials, for instance, it might be concrete, as already highlighted in our previous presentations, almost like 32 billion tons of emissions of CO2. So that's quite a lot. And talking about the way the things has been happening these days, I think we need to also focus on our indigenous technologies, and it is all about connecting the civil engineering with our societies. So on that note, not just the civil engineering perspective, but also the ground thoughts, that is interlinking the interdisciplinary components together with the local knowledges, and also the sustainable materials, locally available materials, can also be resilient enough, can also resist any kind of disaster. So such kind of understandings and concepts need to be developed. And I think through this ACECC, documenting all those best practices over the different countries will be very much crucial. And also there was, the issue of cultural heritage was also highlighted. And talking about the Gorkha earthquake in Nepal in 2015, we had like 745 monuments getting collapsed near the Kathmandu Valley. And how it is linked with economic or poverty or other SDG goals is like these kind of cultural heritages are the, and people come to visit and explore all these places, and having the structures that are not resisting to such kind of disasters, I think it will definitely interrupt the economic and social conditions of the country or something like that. So as a civil engineer, we need to have our thoughts, we need to start working so that we can make this kind of structures a resilient one, so that we can have we can face any kind of disasters. And also some of the concepts regarding carbon neutrality was quite interesting. And I just want to say just one interesting article which I went through the literature review during when I was writing a book chapter. What I found was like more than 75% of the fatalities due to the earthquake, and 66% of the population growth accounted in the earthquake prone areas was found relatable in the developing countries with urbanization ratio of 0.2 and 0.6. So you can see the way it's urbanizing, the amount of constraints that are being built up, the vulnerabilities that are being existed, it is contributing towards the exposure towards the disaster and so many other challenges. So I think it's a high time now that we address all these issues together, and then we need to make a strong foundations, starting from the bottom-up approaches, and also incorporating the innovations, the use of frontier technologies, so that it can make our life easy, and also so that we can proudly say that, okay, being a civil engineer, we have envisioned a society like this, which is more sustainable, which is capable of resisting any kind of disasters and so on. So I think, yeah, this is what I found interesting in today's session. So with the help of this ACECC, and especially the future leaders that are coming from like 16 member economies, the learnings from these can be built up and also made upon the, the best practices can be replicated, and also the innovations can be incorporated. So yeah, this was from me, as time is also limited. Thank you.
Thank you, Suraj-san. Yes, he talks many things about, particularly, yes, the disaster issues and also the social or economic impacts, maybe. So do you have any comments? Yes, regarding his comments? First of all, I'll just invite Professor Ueda.
Well, yeah, it's very difficult to respond to what you said. Okay, what should I say? Well, okay, disaster mitigation issues. Yes, I think civil engineering is a great role. But at the same time, another complicated issue is the population. I think a country like Nepal, still your population is increasing. Then then people live together in the city, so it's become more vulnerable once you have some big earthquake. So what we are seeing is very complicated issues. The best way is, I shouldn't say this one, but to stop increasing population, that is one of the best solutions to mitigate the disaster, but we cannot do that. So it takes time, but I somehow believe as a human being that takes years, but eventually, even country like Nepal, your civil engineering or infrastructure development level is naturally increasing. Then naturally, the disaster effect would be reduced, and at the same time, as the statistics show, then your country also make a better contribution to the carbon neutrality. Yeah, this is what I can say at this moment.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes. Next is then the professor. Okay, April, please. Okay, if you have some comments.
Well, is that on? Yeah, I can certainly see the differences. Certainly living in New Zealand, where we also have big disasters as well, but we have a small population and a different quality of life for our people. And, the time it takes to recover in that country versus Nepal, it's different. And yeah, it's how do you solve those inequities, and how do you, like you said, the future world vision didn't really show a true Asia sort of perspective, did it? So, it doesn't, maybe it's thinking that that'll all be solved by 2070, but I don't think so. So yeah, it's be interesting to see a kind of a different future vision that is maybe more, shows some of those areas where there's a higher population, and maybe the buildings have, different materials. Hopefully they'll be using strategies and methods that might be used that are more appropriate to developing countries, and that would be showcased hopefully. And I think there's a way for people to put that information into the system so that it does come out. So it would be something to be very interesting to see if someone like yourself and others would put that information into the Future World Vision platform. Thank you.
And Professor Ho, please.
The problem is my hearing, so I couldn't understand what he said because I have some kind of a hearing problem. So howling is not good. But I just heard that he said mention about the poverty and disaster, something like that. Okay, and then okay. So my major is hydrology, and also working for the disaster prevention. I'm working on the climate change, something like that, the effect of the climate change, something like that. So in Nepal, I think the fertility rate of Korea is the lowest in the world. So nowadays, we worry about the labor, the population of the laborers is very important to us. So Nepal has also different, the issues. They have different issues. I think nobody cannot protect the people from the disaster. So several years ago, the government, they suggest some kind of the no casualty plan against the climate change, but sometimes there's a typhoon and many people are dead, something like that. So we cannot, the protect the people from the disaster. The only way is just to reduce the disaster. So I think it's depending on the country. So Korea has their own policies, Japan has their own policies, such as the Nepal maybe have their own disaster prevention policies. So I think maybe if we have some kind of special problem, then just let us know. Then we can try to communicate, and then we can suggest some kind of best solution from our experiences, something like that. That's the reason why I said the international collaboration is very important among the ACECC members. Okay, and so, and then I think it's the Nepal. Our problem is the fertility rate. That's another problem, The Nepal never, worry about this kind of a problem. So I think my suggestion is like this. Today, the three people presented their topics. So I hopefully, we upload this file in the ACECC homepage, something like that. So, I present very fast. So too small letters, so nobody, I think the people cannot read, something like that. So I suggest to just download this file in the ACECC homepage. So then everybody can, see the papers. And also, I don't know how to, but these kind of people, they have some kind of question, send in the ACECC homepage, then maybe ACECC members with the experience, they can, deliver some idea how to solve the problem, something like that. I think that's one of the laws in ACECC. That's my suggestion. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Very valuable and important suggestions to us. Yes, as April, suggested, ACECC is a very important platform to discuss about the challenges for the future. And yes, Professor Ho's suggestion is really, in that sense, good communications platform for us for the participatory process to find out the future directions of ACECC. And yes, we found some, again, recognize and acknowledge the diversity across the different member countries. Some country highlights the specific topics, maybe for example, mega city in US, but Japan says the decentralizations, quite opposite directions, at the quick glance. But we believe that there are some similarities or some shared ideas we can communicate. So maybe not just looking at the superficial keywords, maybe we'd better further make communications and what should be highlighted in the ACECC amongst the members, that should be discussed more in details. I think our strategic planning goal is a kind of starting points of this kind of discussions to understand each other about the similarities or the differences. And through communications, I believe we can find quite good directions over civil engineers of Asia. Yes. Yes, if possible, I'd like to discuss more, particularly the uniqueness of Asia as well. But unfortunately, we couldn't, we haven't had sufficient time. Maybe we may discuss further more, as suggested Professor Ho, through maybe online or email communication. I'm not sure the ACECC Secretariat General or Secretariat can set up such a kind of system immediately on the website, but I would like them to support us to set up some websites to first upload the presentation slides from 3 presenters and accept some comments from all ACECC members to them. And we may feedback to all members about the communications. And that would be the quite a good starting point. All right, time is coming, and I, again, appreciate our efforts and the good presentations from 3 presenters, and also the Dr. Izawa's about really good review reports about our activities. Based on today's discussions, our Goal2 task force further discuss about conclusion. I'm not sure we can make a quite clear conclusion, but probably conclusion is let us continue discuss. But anyways, try to make tentative conclusions in the next ECM. Okay. At the end of today's sessions, let us make a big hands to all participants. Thank you very much. Okay, this is the end of this seminar. Thank you very much for your participation.